money is the ultimate architecture of freedom. This right here is Montague's core thesis. He doesn't just, appreciate the utility of having some cash. He literally views money as a god that governs every single molecule on the planet. For him, money isn't just a tool to buy things, it's how you buy reality itself. It's the only metric of success that doesn't lie. So this perfectly sets the stage for us to understand a worldview that is completely stripped of collective empathy.
So here is our roadmap for deconstructing this philosophy. We'll be hitting 6 structured parts: the architecture of wealth, the eradication of no, the transactional matrix, and then the heavy costs of this lifestyle, the fortress of isolation, and the hedonic null zone, before wrapping up with the ultimate choice.
Starting off with Part 1, the architecture of wealth, and exploring the synthetic atmosphere of capital.
Montague essentially views capital as a biological shield. Imagine operating from a penthouse suspended way above the clouds. It's this literal and metaphorical fortress of polished block marble and obsidian, totally devoid of any sentimental clutter. And what this does is perfectly isolate him from the everyday systemic threats the average citizen is exposed to. I mean, if a major crisis hits, he isn't queuing up at the local supermarket, right? He's boarding a medicalized private jet heading to an island fortress that has its own fully equipped ICU. He's completely insulated from systemic collapse, actually extracting value from tragedy while the rest of the world deals with the fallout.
Moving on to Part 2, the eradication of no and the brutal efficiency of time arbitrage. This is a massive point in the text. Montague argues that average people basically live under the tyranny of permission. They're just renting their lives from a clock, spending 8 hours laboring, more hours commuting. But for the ultra-wealthy, the word no literally ceases to exist. If some historic building is blocking his sunrise view, he doesn't go lobby the city, he just buys the city council. They don't compromise. They view time as the ultimate commodity, so they just buy other people's time, upwards of 500 hours a day through fixers and legal teams, just to expand their own existence.
And that brings us to this crucial target number for mundane labor: 0. Every single trivial, soul-sucking task, whether it's waiting in a line, dealing with insurance, or booking tickets, is 100% outsourced to someone who relies on his capital to survive.
Which then leads directly to this staggering result: 24 hours of true, unfiltered autonomy. Because he never has to perform basic maintenance on his own life, his 24 hours are just pure, distilled choice. In the text, he claims he can essentially live 5 lifetimes in the span of a single calendar year. He's not buying services at this point. He's literally buying pieces of immortality.
All right, Part 3, the transactional matrix and replacing affection with compliance.
Now, this is a truly fascinating concept to unpack. When you can buy endless time, how do you handle actual human relationships? Well, Montague views genuine affection as a massive liability. To him, it demands vulnerability and messy emotional reciprocity. No thanks. Instead, look at how he actively converts human elements into ironclad capitalist contracts, using this transactional matrix. Rather than relying on unpredictable emotional loyalty, he just pays a high-premium retainer to a world-class lawyer. Instead of dealing with the emotional tax of companionship, he forms asset-based partnerships secured by an unlimited black card. His entire social circle operates like a hyper-efficient corporation. Everyone has a strict job description, a performance review, and ultimately an expiration date.
Which brings us to the inevitable fallout in Part 4, the fortress of isolation, and the paranoid balancing act.
Because here's the reality. Every fortress is also a highly secure prison, and the very first casualty of this extreme lifestyle is the truth. At Montague's level of wealth, truth is completely replaced by this soft wall of sycophancy. Think about it. When someone tells him, "You're a genius," his brain instantly translates that to, "Grant me capital." If he hears, "I love you," it actually means, "Secure my lifestyle." He's forced to become this hyper-analytical machine, a bloodhound constantly sniffing out hidden motives, which leaves him utterly deprived of any genuine human connection.
And this profound sensory deprivation breathes what the text calls a relentless siege mentality. When you're sitting at the very top of the food chain, suddenly the entire ecosystem is hunting you. The state? They just view your wealth as a piggy bank for taxation and legislative theft. The masses? Boiling over with resentment. But the absolute most dangerous threats? The insiders. Spouses and heirs mutate into existential threats, just waiting around for an asset-stripping divorce or a massive inheritance. Montague beautifully describes it as being a king sitting on a throne of glass, completely surrounded by people hiding stones. He's forced to live in a permanent state of litigation and preemptive strikes.
That brings us to Part 5, and maybe the most fascinating psychological concept we'll cover today: the hedonic null zone and the curse of complete saturation.
So, beyond all that paranoia, absolute wealth actually destroys your biological capacity to feel pleasure. For an average person, delaying gratification, say, saving up for something special, creates a massive dopamine spike when you finally get it. But what happens when there's zero distance between wanting something and consuming it? The world literally loses its color. This deadened, fully saturated state of existence is what the text defines as the hedonic null zone.
Just check out how this timeline completely collapses. Saving for a whole year for a sports car? That yields peak pleasure. But Montague doesn't save. He acts in minutes. He can see a multi-million-dollar painting and literally buy it via text message without even getting out of his chair. And because he can have absolutely anything instantly, a vintage, priceless wine just tastes like tap water, and a massive super yacht feels like nothing more than a floating plastic box. To feel even a tiny flicker of emotion, he's forced to seek out increasingly bizarre, extreme, and dangerous experiences, pushing way past conventional morality for no other reason than to wake up his own deadened nerve endings.
Finally, we reach part 6, the ultimate choice and Montague's final manifesto.
You'd think, after describing all that utter numbness and isolation, he'd regret his path, right? Not even a little bit. He views virtues like kindness and humility as fragile luxuries, things meant for people who literally can't afford to be selfish. In the end, he reduces the entirety of human existence to one brutal binary question. Do you hold the whip, or do you take the lashes? He wholly embraces the paranoia and that hedonic numbness because, in his mind, money is the one and only absolute certainty in a meaningless universe. So we'll leave you with that provocative thought. Does a life of absolute autonomy justify the cost of your humanity? Hopefully this explainer gave you a really clear, structured look into the terrifyingly logical architecture of pure selfishness. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will catch you in the next explainer.